The only NFL team that you, yes, you can actually own just told the world that its ownership model might not cut it anymore, which is funny in my opinion, because in 1960, the NFL actually made the whole model illegal to copy for any other team. And not because it failed, but because it worked. And once you see this, you can't unsee it. I'm Teron Ferguson, and this is Even Swap, No Swindle. Here's my question for today. What happened with the Green Bay Packers? Okay, so on July 24th, ESPN quietly slipped the article out there into the ether that I think we all should be paying attention to. Okay. And by all of us, I don't just mean the solidarity economy, my co-op movement folks, the employee ownership space, all of us. 3 days before the Green Bay Packers had their annual shareholders meeting, the one that they hold at Lambeau Field, the stadium, because the shareholders are the fans, the team president and the CEO, Ed Policy, that's his name. That's not a concept about education, policy, and political leadership. The CEO of the Green Bay Packers' name is Ed Policy. Well, he stands up to the podium and he gives the businesses annual financials, and he says, and I quote, "It's like other teams have access to this ATM machine that we don't have right now," end quote. Okay. Now, the headline number sounds scary. The Packers posted an operating loss of about $1 million. First time that's happened in a non-pandemic year since 1990. The revenues were 753 million, I believe, and the expenses were 754. So that's a $1 million operating loss. But if you hold the ledger up to the light, the situation starts looking a little funny, especially the way CEO Policy framed it. Total net income, 132 million up. And by up, I mean 54.8% up from last year. So there's investment gains, plus the cut that went to ESPN when ESPN bought NFL Network. Oh, plus every single NFL team collected 453 million from the league office before it even sold one ticket, one hot dog, one thing from the concession stand. That's just a national TV money deal. So everybody's eating. Okay. That's the whole point of that club, that cooperative enterprise that we call the National Football League. And the expense spike, $130 million, is in player costs, mostly because, and no shade to my guy, because he's a remarkable pass rusher, but the Green Bay Packers went out and they got Micah Parsons and they paid for him because they wanted to bolster their defense, give the offense, Matt LaFleur, the coach, and Jordan Love, the quarterback, a chance at succeeding. So they paid Micah 4 years, 188 million, and 136 million of that money is guaranteed. And if you follow the NFL, you know guaranteed means no matter what happens, you're going to get paid that. It's not a performance bonus. It's not some sort of conditional staggered payment. It might be phased across the lifetime of your contract, but it's guaranteed. So let's be precise about what happened here. A team chose to spend big on a superstar, which is their right. And because it's an entertainment product, the sport, they should do, if you ask me. But they did that in a year where its net income jumped by half. And then they told its 500,000 community owners that the problem might be the ownership. What the hell? If that's not a freaking swap swindle type of situation, then I don't know what it is, but it sure isn't a math problem or a CFO assignment or some sort of accounting error. So let me tell you about this disadvantaged franchise. So Green Bay, Wisconsin. I've never been there. I would love to go there. I grew up, watching the Packers. And even though I'm from Miami, always loved Brett Favre and then the Aaron Rodgers era. But it's always been the smallest market in major American professional sports. We're talking about 1,000 people in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So the team has been community owned since 1923 when they sold shares to local folks to keep the ball club alive. And now today, that number is roughly around 537,000 shareholders, and they hold altogether over 5 million shares or so. And there's like this beautiful poetry of it that is criminally underreported. Like the stock that these owners hold pays no dividends. The stock doesn't appreciate. You can't sell it or flip it. if you will. There's no exit. It's ownership in the version or variety of stewardship. When we talk about the silver tsunami succession crisis or neighborhood business preservation, community legacy, we would love to hear it because you buy it, right? But you buy it to keep it. You buy it to keep it alive, to keep it community rooted, and not to squeeze it out. Just harkening back to my video about what type of investor are you. It's the same reason I buy laundromats, right? I'm trying to keep them in the neighborhood as they are infrastructure that people rely on, that ordinary people utilize. So, what has this uncompetitive structure produced? And I'm using Ed Policy's term, okay? It's produced 13 championships, the most in league history, okay? A franchise valued around $6.5 billion. No owner that threatens to move the team to greener pastures or a coastal city to find a better stadium deal. And it's because the town are the owners, because the owners are the town. And so when the Packers needed capital back in 2021, for example, to renovate Lambeau, they just issued shares. 160, no, 176,000 new owners. They raised their hand, they stood up, stepped up, and as a result, almost $66 million was raised in months, right? These shares, they were about $300 a pop. And regular people voted with their wallets to say they wanted Lambeau Field to be better because the Packers serve them, help them, they love them. The model worked so well in 1960, like I said, that the NFL wrote what's literally called the Green Bay Packer rule into its constitution. It said no more nonprofit owned franchises, despite the fact that the NFL is a nonprofit, this collection of teams and owners and franchises. No more community owned franchises may ever join the league again. But because the Packers had already done this and to great success, and because they're such an important, iconic brand, they were grandfathered in. So think about that. They didn't ban this model because it was weak. If they thought it was weak, they would have forced the Green Bay Packers at that time to change its governance structure. You don't build a fence around failure. They banned it. Well, I'll let you decide. So, what's this ATM machine that the other 31 teams have that CEO policy is talking about? So, let's go back to August 2024. The NFL owners, they voted 31-30 to let private equity buy up 10% of franchises. Okay. So, a lot of people did this. Ares, Arctus, Sixth Street, Capital, a consortium with Blackstone and Carlyle, the Carlyle Group in it. There were these funds with a minimum of $2 billion in committed capital that were able to play in this space now. They're invited to the party. That's the ATM that he's referring to. And the CEO said it himself, right? A team can sell 5 to 10% of its equity and then raise more than the Packers' entire reserve fund in just a matter of months. So I want to be fair to the man because I don't think that it is fair to just like lambaste somebody for being a proponent of what they believe in or advocating for the cause that they stand with. That's not the point of my clear-eyed commentary, if you will. So CEO Ed Policy, he does have and hold a fiduciary duty. Players' costs are rising. I mean, every day as the season ramps up, there's a new announcement of an eye-popping salary. I just read an article the other day that was talking about how the running back position might be back because players like Jahmyr Gibbs sign these eye-popping deals, right? So he's not proposing selling the Green Bay Packers yet. He just said an adjustment might be necessary. And if I want to be prudent and judicious about addressing this matter, I have to say that that's a professional just doing his job. He's reading the long-term trade winds, if you will, out loud. But I'm making this video because I want to encourage you to listen to the shape of the argument, okay? Because I predict that we're going to hear it again and again and again, and not just in football. And it'll sound something like this. The community structure is a disadvantage. We need access to deeper pockets, just a little bit, just a small slice. We want it to be passive, silent, and we promise that it'll just be capital injected and the decision making will stay on the sideline. But we've seen this movie before. I see it in my industry. I was talking to a owner who before being in laundromats, he was in the food business. His family had a food brokerage company, and he talked about how they the grocery industry used to be a grassroots industry, very very fragmented network of mom and pop shops, and then private equity rolls in and consolidates. And now you see this with private equity rolling up laundromats, car washes, veterinarian clinics, mobile home parks. You can look at articles where private equity is setting its sights on childcare, sort of every humble, essential cash flowing thing. The pitch always begins with a sliver of capital. It always claims to be a passive investment, and it always is proposed as a one-time exigency, just this once. And then the returns come, right? And they need to come from somewhere. And that somewhere is always the same place. The people who depended on the thing, the people who considered it infrastructure. So when a corporation floats a structural change during a rough patch, that is something that we have to pay attention to, because it's not planning, okay? It's an insurance policy in an underwhelming season with the community's equity as collateral. And it's no coincidence, in my opinion, that this is announced at a press conference, an annual shareholders meeting, where a lot of times people show up at Lambeau Field because not only do they want to hear about the previous performance, but they want to hear about the plans for the future as the season kicks off. And here's the thing that makes the timing just even more sort of May 2nd of this year, if you remember, I was traveling actually. I remember being in the airport and seeing all the kiosks for Spirit Airlines on the way out, departure, but learning about the closure while I was in the place that I was traveling to, and then seeing all the kiosks be blank, bare, no employees when I was returning back. Remember this when Spirit Airlines shut down, the terminals went dark. It was the second bankruptcy, and then it was just like that, poof. If you were on a Spirit flight and you went one way, you had to go with a different airline just to get back, right? All these promotions. And what happened next? A TikTok creator goes on the app and then suggested, what if we bought it? What if it came back as a company owned by the public? And the campaign went viral. Hundreds of thousands of people, pledges climbing past 300 million. Of course, these are just pledges. They're not checks. They're non-binding. But I can't tell you how many times in my daily work I talk to somebody and we are talking about the mechanism of shared ownership, the how. We've moved past the why, and then they sort of casually reference to show me that they support what I'm thinking by saying, I pledged to buy Spirit Airlines as well. I mean, what I'm trying to say anecdotally, but also from the evidence, is that the demand was real. And the campaign basically said out loud what its corporate inspiration was, and that was the Green Bay Packers. So back to the timing piece, in the same summer that the Packers CEO called community ownership a long-term disadvantage, a few 100,000 strangers strewn about the internet pledged $250 million to try to emulate it and copy it. That means that the capital exists, dude. The Packers have even raised it before. Actually, six separate times in 100 years, just most recently in 2021, right after the pandemic. The people have shown up every single time that the team has asked it to. And so it's like this beautiful, if you build it, they will come. If it matters, they'll pay for it. If it's real, it will be made real, because nothing unreal can be threatened, right? Nothing real can be threatened, and nothing unreal exists. So the question was never, can the Green Bay Packers access capital or this proverbial ATM? The question that I would propose is, whose capital do you want? What does that capital cost? What does it cost to the community if you take the other kind? My read is pretty simple on this. You can say I'm partial, but whatever. Selling more community shares to fund the future, that's an even swap, okay? The town puts into the kitty, so the town gets to keep the team, and everybody knows the deal. And we get more time to see if the Micah Parsons experiment is going to work, if the Jordan Love trajectory is going to play out, if the Packers can get back to glory. Quietly reframing 537,000 stewards as a competitive problem is just nasty work, because it opens the door for the deep pockets, almost similar to how the Lakers are being flipped right now after being sold, what, less than a year prior? That feels to me like a swindle in the making, right? It's not the full on swindle just yet. It hasn't been consummated, but the sausage is just getting rolled up. So I'll be watching the storyline all season. I'm going to be checking out the earnings reports and notes, every tweak or adjustment, any small announcement. They're going to try to slip it out. I believe that. But consider this one video of me kind of making a film room so we can run back the tape and talk about it together. Okay. Oh, and before you go, here is the exact argument. Your structure is quaint, but let the real money come in. And it's coming for more than football. It's coming for your neighborhood. It's coming for your block. It's coming for the laundromat, the bodega, the corner store, every neighborhood asset that works precisely because it isn't built to be squeezed. So I don't know. You tell me in the comments, would you buy $300 worth of shares or a $300 share that never pays you a dime just to keep something that's important to you alive? 537,000 people already said so with Spirit. What about the sports team that you love? This is Even Swap No Swindle. I'll see you next time. Peace.